I play Clementine Churchill, who was married to Winston Churchill throughout his life. They met when she was quite young, and they had a very stormy. They were absolutely devoted to each other, but they had quite a stormy relationship. And it's amazing that they stay together. Nowadays, it's amazing they stay together. I don't think it was then. Anyway, they completely adored each other and had the most fantastic rows, and they were just passionate about each other. I think he would have been successful without her, but I think when he says in one of his letters that he wouldn't have been able to live through the war without her by his side. And I think that she, without being the brains behind the brawn, not at all, she was very, very supportive and very, she had very strong ideas about politics and about what should be done in the world and how things should be run. How he managed to kind of instill a sense of patriotism and a sense of bravery and a sense of pride in Britain was extraordinary. But his first speeches, for example, the famous speeches that he made in the House of Lords, in the House of Commons rather, they weren't impressed at all. But the people, when he spoke on the radio to the people, they really drank his words, and he became very popular like that. He was a very, very, very brilliant man with a lot of quite complicated things going on inside him. A very complicated human being and a brilliant politician. He had a passion for things like at Chartwell, and he had a passion for bricklaying, and that was his way of relaxing. We'd go and build a wall and build a cottage. And he was a painter, but his paintings are very valuable now. He obviously wrote so many words. It was extraordinary, the amount of, the number of books he wrote, and very learned things, histories, and it's extraordinary, and just never stopped. Very, very powerful brain. I'd never met Gary before, so coming to rehearsal, I met an actor, and we read, and I couldn't imagine the transformation would be that extraordinary. I mean, it's sort of a shock every time. And I completely forget Gary underneath his makeup and his costume. I can't really remember what he looks like, actually. Yeah, no, he's brilliant. It's amazing work they've done. To transform Gary Oldman into Winston Churchill is extraordinary. In fact, we even fooled one of the experts, because we had a chap, well, I can't remember his name, so we'll have to be careful about who it is, but one of the historians saw the pictures of Gary Oldman as Churchill on the wall and said, "Oh, those are interesting. Where did you find those?" And we said, "It's the actor." There's so much material to do your homework with. It's quite daunting. When they sent me reading material, I received a box. It was so heavy, and every single book is this thick, so it's absolutely terrifying. And so many people have played these parts before us, done their version of. It's quite daunting to have to find your own way through that, your own interpretation, your own vision of it. And I think Gary knows a lot about, he knows a lot about Winston Churchill now. I know so much more about the war. There were loads of things I had no idea about. So it's been, just doing this film, just researching for it has been fascinating. I imagine he's had a even more enriching time than I have. I've always wanted to work with him since I saw Pride and Prejudice. That was him, wasn't it? I thought it was a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant adaptation, and then of course Atonement being, I'd loved Atonement, it was wonderful. So I'm very excited about actually managing, after a long time, being able to work with him. So that's good. And it's exactly how I imagined. He's very collaborative. He will let us experiment. He's open to all sorts of, he's open to ideas. He's not completely fixed on one way or another. I really enjoy working with him. It's very important to know history, to study history, to understand what happened, and to be able to apply what we learned at that period to what goes on in the world. In all, it doesn't have to be about war. It can be about anything. I mean, history is vital. So it's quite fun being able to. It's fun for me just being able to learn about all this stuff, because I really don't know anything. So it was really interesting for me to sort of plunge into that period, those 2 weeks in May. Such an extraordinary. When you think his first week in office, he had to deal with Dunkirk and Hitler's advance, and whether or not to stand up to him or to go for appeasement in his first week in office. Extraordinary.